Hi there. Welcome to 20 for 20. My name is Grace Roebuck, and I am with the Elks National Foundation. We really enjoyed interviewing our 20 for 20 top 20 so much that we're keeping it going with the rest of our Elks family. So today I'm joined by Gaby Haire, a 2015 Most Valuable Student Scholar sponsored by Brainerd, Minnesota, Lodge number 615. So thank you so much for joining us today, Gaby.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So we have a few questions for you, but my first question is just to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about where you're from.
Yeah, so I am originally from Brainerd, Minnesota, like you mentioned, Lodge 615, and I went to school then at the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, and I am still located in Minneapolis, living the dream.
Awesome. So when did you graduate? What did you study? What are you doing now?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2019, like I said, from the University of Minnesota. I studied biomedical engineering and got a minor in computer science. And then upon graduation, I joined Optum, which is the technology arm of United Health Group. And I worked there in a rotation program, which I'm still technically in, though I have exited the rotation process and have landed in my final role. So I'm a data engineer on our ambient healthcare at home team. So I work in the kind of emerging tech space, our emerging tech group that looks at kind of innovations across the board and tries to figure out how to apply them to the healthcare space. And specifically, like I said, my team works on kind of bringing healthcare into the home. And so whether it's your smart speaker or your smartwatch or random sensors, think any smart device, that's pretty much all of the technology that we're working with and trying to figure out how to use it to make healthcare kind of work better for everyone.
Wow, that's so awesome and so relevant now too, especially.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Has your work at all changed with COVID / just in general, how has this year been for you?
Yeah, so my work definitely changed. So I was actually on a different team when the pandemic hit the US, and I was actually working in fraud. So specifically payment fraud related to health savings accounts and also with basically the distribution of payments from United Health Group, United Healthcare, the insurance company, to then to the actual physicians, and basically if those payments somehow end up going to the wrong bank account or someone takes over someone's login or anything like that. So I ended up on an account working with basically the fraud operations with all of the CARES Act funding that was used for relief payments to providers. So my job got very different. I was in daily ops calls, monitoring fraud incidents. But anyway, so that was how things started. And then I transitioned to my current team in July. And so middle of the pandemic, it definitely was interesting, unusual to start a job with people that I hadn't met before, completely virtually. I think that was definitely a little bit of a challenge and an adjustment. But I've definitely worked my way through it. And, honestly for us, I think it's just, there's just been more buy-in to the work that we're doing and the immediacy of its importance. But I don't know that the work itself has changed because, like you said, it's really relevant to healthcare in our current state.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for that oversight. That's so interesting, definitely what you're doing, and like I said, so relevant. So now going to take you a little bit back into more of your heavier duty Elks Scholar days. So, as an Elks Scholar, what does service mean to you?
You're bringing not the softball questions here. So I think for me, and I think we talked about it a lot, on the service trips, service really is something that's about connection. And I think, meeting people where they're at and, kind of having the opportunity to hopefully, give and connect with people in a way that, kind of supports them. But also, I think it's always said that it's impossible to enter a situation of service and not feel like you've taken something away. And sometimes it feels, you've maybe learned more than you were able to physically give.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something I noticed with the service trips too, is just becoming a lot more cognizant of that relationship and that dynamic. So speaking of service and service trips, you really are, I mentioned this a bit earlier, but you really are a veteran of our service trip programs. You were a leader at 150 for 150, the Elks Scholar Communing in San Antonio, Texas. You went on the 2019 Biloxi, Mississippi, as well as the 2018 Asheville, North Carolina, and the 2016 Oakland, California trips. So a lot of experience there that I think is super valuable, and you were super integral parts of each of those trips. So, my question to you is, why did you decide to join an Elks Scholar Service trip?
Yeah, I think my first one, I went on the winter break of my freshman year of college. And I think at that point in time, I was gung-ho for anything that I could do, right? It's freshman year, trying to grab at any and every opportunity. But I do think a big piece of that was that I had attended the leadership weekend for the top 20 in the MVS contest in May, the May prior to starting college. And that had been an incredibly positive experience for me. I had the opportunity to meet people who, I felt really connected with, and was definitely excited at the opportunity to not only go to somewhere in the country I'd never been before, and, get the opportunity to do service, but also to connect with people that I, had previously, or just new people who I felt like I would, really be able to enjoy and learn and relate to. So that's probably what got me there the first time. But then after that, definitely what kept me coming back was the people that I had met. I say it every time, like, I have Elks Scholar friends that I talk to on a very regular basis, and people that I really, really value their insight on life and their perspective, and they're just generally wonderful. So it's always really great to get to spend time with them. So that's definitely what kept me coming back and landed me in Asheville, and also landed me then in Biloxi. So the people, but then also really the opportunity to get to see different parts of the country and different communities, and see kind of the different challenges that people face, that show, we're all so different and have such different experiences and challenges and backgrounds, but at the same time, there's really a core humanity that exists within all of us. And I think the trips kind of give you opportunity to experience and see that.
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. I have such fond memories of my service trips too, so I'm right there with you. So, just to dig in a little bit more to your service trips, what was your experience like on those trips? Maybe just to start, was there any favorite part that sticks out to you from one of them, or from multiple, or anything like that?
Yeah. It's so hard to choose what to bring up. But I think maybe one moment that really has definitely stuck with me. So the Asheville trip was a little bit smaller. I'll start by saying that than some of the other trips. We had, I think, 12 people on it, and the trips sometimes had up to 20. So there were 12 of us. And for anyone that hasn't been on the service trip or is unfamiliar with them, in the evenings we'll do reflections. So they're different activities. Some of them are centered around us and our kind of life experiences, but then we kind of also spend the time talking about, the day of service and tying those things together. But we definitely got into, lots of things about our backgrounds with some of the activities, and one of them being the privilege walk. And I think it left a lot of really raw emotion for our group, and we weren't done processing when we'll say bedtime was called, as much as bedtime can be called for a bunch of college students. But I myself and a couple other people felt the need to keep talking about what was going on, and we said, I think I ended up saying, all right, guys, whomever kind of wants to keep debriefing this, feels the need to keep talking, safe space, no judgment, let's have a chat. So we sat in up for, hours, but what's really cool about it is everyone ended up staying. There was no one that, kind of took the pass and left. Everyone ended up staying, and it was a really rich moment of connection, I think, for all of us to get to, talk for, who even knows, 6 hours probably, but also I think to really challenge each other and learn so much about each other's past experiences, people from across the country, lots of different backgrounds, and, kind of challenge each other's perspectives. So it was a very definitely emotional moment, intense, but left with, I think, some really pure connections that I know that I'm really happy to have.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. There's some kind of magic that happens with service trips, right? That just allow you to connect with strangers and become best friends in a week. It's kind of crazy. So my next question is kind of building off what you had started to talk about earlier with service or with interacting with other scholars, kind of anything you want to draw from. What did you learn from your trips or from any trip in particular?
Yeah, I think I might call back to what I kind of said earlier about the service itself and the opportunity of, really getting the privilege to enter a community that is not your own, that you do not necessarily, know enough about to really be able to come in and, to be able to come in and just like change things, fix things, right? To have the privilege to come in and be welcomed to kind of give what you can from where you're at, and the opportunity to do that in different places across the country. I know for me, all the places I went were definitely far away from where I grew up. Literally, Minnesota, we're like at the very north central, right? Biloxi is south central, about as south as you can get because you're on the Gulf of Mexico. Asheville, we're all the way out east, and then Oakland, you're all the way out west. So yeah, definitely very diverse places to visit. And I think, like I said earlier, the opportunity to get to learn about communities and see the unique struggles that are faced in each of the communities that we enter. But also then, each person that you serve, each person that you get the opportunity to connect with through service, I think, it's impossible not to really have it set in how tied kind of each of us are with our humanity and kind of our basic needs and desires. So I think, yeah, I don't know if there's a conclusion to that, but I guess, yeah, the ability to experience that feeling and connection with people that feel really different than you is really powerful.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So then my last question about service trips in particular is, it's kind of something that you've already talked about. But it essentially, how did these service trips, maybe as a whole, maybe in particular, strengthen your relationship with your Elks family?
Oh, well, I think the matter of time, I think served my relationships with the Elks family so very well. It takes time to build relationships, and if you don't sleep at all for a whole week, you can build a lot of relationships. I promise you can still build plenty with sleep, but getting those bonus 8 hours every day really, really does a lot for friendship.
The collective exhaustion too.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and when you're like in delirious tears at the airport, when you're going home. But no, now that I'm laughing and have lost track of the question. Building connection with the Elks family, though. So having the opportunity to have that time to connect and just to get to meet so many people, I think kind of an underlying theme that I started to find in all of the people that I was meeting was that, everyone, I think, had really an empathy first mentality, everyone that I was meeting. And that's not something that I can say for, all of the people that I've had the opportunity to meet in my life. But everyone really, Elk Scholars, it's like success for them is defined as the positive impact that they're able to have on other people. And that's something that I respect a lot. And that's something that I definitely try to hold true as I kind of, go about my life. So, having the ability to spend time with people and recognize that you share some of those kind of core values, even though you might come at them from different ways, was really powerful. And I think that similarly, beyond the Elks Scholars, the Elks Lodges as well, that you get the opportunity to visit on the service trips. And I know personally, I hadn't known really much about my lodge before I got my scholarship, but once I did get my scholarship, when I'm back in town, I'll go to dinner at the lodge, and they actually supported like my travel expenses for all of the trips that I went on, which was really awesome, very sweet, and I think that, that kind of definition of success that I was talking about applies, to the lodges too. And I think that they, meaning the lodges and the Elks themselves, really look at what's going on in their community and say, what can we do about that? It's not like there's one core issue. It's just a focus on what does the community need right now and what can I do about that? And I think that really local focus also is something that I respect and believe in the ability of, I guess, that kind of approach to really have a big impact. So getting to see that, in addition to getting to connect with the scholars, I guess has really grounded me in my connection to the Elks family.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree with the lodge situation. It was the same for me. And, I just want to take a moment before we go on to our last two questions for anyone watching this, just to clarify, the Elks National Foundation, we have a service trip program that under normal circumstances, scholars come together from across the country in a set place for about a week to learn, serve, and connect with each other. And it's a really special opportunity to connect with local Elks lodges in the area that they're serving, as well as connect with other Elks scholars and their Elks family. So just a bit of context for anyone watching this. Now I have two more questions for you, and this next one is going to build on the previous question, but what does Elks family mean to you? Is it scholars? Is it lodges? Is it something more? Is it more like friendship? Yeah, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's all of the above, kind of what you just mentioned. I do think it's the lodges. That's the root of it. That's, the people that have contributed so generously to the education that I received and the education that many of my friends have received. But also, because of the sense of relatability, for sure, it's impossible to, I guess, not put at the pinnacle of it, for me, the relationships that I have with other Elk Scholars, and the fact that, at the root of that is the Elks Lodges and the support that they've given us, and the investment they've made in us being able to build these relationships with each other. But then I know that, the Elks family really are people that challenge me to be the most empathetic and compassionate and driven version of myself. So I guess that's what it means to me.
Awesome, thank you. And my last question is, this one's an easy one, I promise. If you could say anything to the Elks, what would you say?
It's impossible not to just say thank you. But like I was saying kind of before about the Elks family, thank you for seeing the value in me as a, I don't know, as a fresh little high school graduate, embarking off into the world. Thank you for, seeing the value in me, and taking, the investment not only in myself, but also in the kind of relationships that we have had the opportunity to build as Elk Scholars with each other and also with the lodges. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Well, thank you, a huge thank you to Gabby, and thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in. If you liked this show, go ahead and hit the little like button below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome interviews and more things to come. So thank you so much for connecting with our Elks family, and we hope to see you next time.
Bye.